What's up, Internet? You're tuning in to episode 51 of the FlipScreen Games Podcast, a weekly video game podcast where two best buds from different nations come together to discuss the wide world of video games. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello.
Greetings and salutations, Steve. How you doing?
I'm doing very well on this lovely overcast day in the UK.
Yeah, right? Like, you didn't melt. That's good news. You made it. Happy to see that.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm not a pool of sweat on the goop on the floor. You know, I could have been like, if you ever watched Roger Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where they go in like the dip, I could have just turned into that.
Oh God!
Put the tunes in the dip.
That's brutal, man. You know, that's as soon as you say that, like my mind goes to, because I think I saw that movie for the first time when I was like pretty young. I was like maybe like under 10 years old, and the scene of the bad guy like dipping that little, I forget, I think he's like a pencil or something. He's like a little tiny cartoon, and he's like, no. It's like that haunts me to this day. Like I just remember him like trying to get away and screaming. You know?
Yeah, it's truly terrifying. It's one of those movies my dad always quotes. Like, he quotes lines from a bunch of cheesy movies like Airplane and stuff. But whenever someone's just like,
that's the best.
Do you want some dip or something? He'll be like, dip, like as if one of the cartoons is like like we're talking about the dip.
That's awesome. Oh man, when I went to Disney World a couple months ago, there was like a giant Roger Rabbit statue outside, like across from our hotel, and I was like, "This is the vibe. I'm here for this."
Oh yeah,
Being
Roger Rabbit's phenomenal.
Great movie. Anyway, we're here to talk about video games. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. How we doing? We've got a good one for you. We're going to be talking about our first impressions of Stray, a game. And I'm going to give you this, Steve. I was listening to a Kind of Funny podcast the other day, and one of them described it as a catformer. Catformer.
Yeah, I could go for that.
That should be a whole genre. You know, like as I was playing, I was like, I could use more cat games.
I could, but I don't know that I want it to form a
whole
trend.
genre.
Yeah, this is such a special game, and we'll get into it. But there's just something about it, and I feel like if developers kind of see it as like a cash cow, and they jump on board, and they don't put the level of passion into the game as the developers of Stray did, I feel like it would be doing it a disservice.
I'm just playing. I don't think it's about to start a trend. I don't think a lot of people are like, oh, we gotta get on this cat game money. That's the real vibe. But we're going to be talking about a couple other things as well, including Discord coming to Xbox, interestingly enough, as well as some questions from you, the community. But before we get into all that, let me remind you that this episode of the FlipScreen Games Podcast is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of July. They are Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Smokey Shake, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. You're all the reals to the real, and we really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. And, of course, if you want to get your name right on the air, if you want to get early access to this or our sister show, Nintendo Noise, or if you want to get access to our exclusive Patreon podcast, One More Thing, head over to that there Patreon, and whatever level you choose to support us, you're going above and beyond, and we really do appreciate it. But if you don't have any money for us, that's not a problem. Head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you can find links to all the places we are all over the web. We've got our Discord. We're always sourcing questions for the show. You can write into us, questions@flipscreen.games. You can follow us on social media. You can come find our Twitch channel where we're out there streaming at least once a week, playing some video games for your amusement. Wherever you choose to go, however you choose to get involved, we appreciate you coming and tuning in and spending your time with us here at FlipScreen Games. So, let's get into the start screen. We're gonna get, it's been a minute since we've done what we're playing, and that's not what we're doing, because there are like about 30 games we've played in the last couple months. I don't know what the hell we're gonna do with that. We're gonna have to do some kind of special where we just catch up on that. I don't know.
Bonanza.
But lately, the news has been flowing. We've been having some good main topics, so we haven't had a lot of time to talk about what games we're playing. But, of course, the game on everyone's lips this week is one Stray, over on PS5, over on PC. Of course, a game we've been, I'd say waiting for quite a bit of time. Blue 12 Studios, published by Annapurna. We saw this game for the first time, I think, maybe
2020.
Yeah,
It was
2 years
announced
ago.
on the PlayStation like showcase, I think it was.
Right.
But I've later found out that they kind of were publishing, they were like developing in the public. There's their website HK-Devblog. It was originally called HK Project, the game, so it kind of gives away where it's set. And it was they kind of went silent after they got funding in 2019, and then showed their head again with the title Stray in 2020.
Yeah. So, and I mean, we've seen a lot of it since then. It's been a game that's been on our radars. We've been looking forward to it. It's finally come out, and I think it's safe to say that it's definitely like the game of the moment right now. Everyone is kind of talking about it. Seeing a lot of conversation online, a lot of pictures of people playing it for their cats, all kinds of good stuff like that.
I wish my cat gave a shit about this game. Like,
I finally got
no issues. No problem with it whatsoever.
I finally got one of them to pay attention, and I was so bummed because I was here playing alone on Thursday night. I forget what it was. Whatever night I was here by myself because Sarah was at her sister's house, and the cats hadn't paid attention to the game yet. I had my cat Pepper sitting on my lap sleeping while I was playing, and I guess she heard something in the game that caught her attention, and she woke up, and then she watched me play for the rest of the time I was playing, and she kept like...
That's so fun. I hope you took a picture.
I couldn't get one because of the angle. Like, it was a bummer that Sarah wasn't there, because it was like she was right on my lap. My phone was like kind of far away from me, and I was like, I don't want to get up and disturb her. And even if I did, right, like, is she gonna keep watching if I do it? Like, it's it's just it was a moment just for me, But
That's cute.
It was a good one.
That's nice.
And it's I think it's come out to pretty generally high reviews. It's definitely seen some mixed conversation around it, but it's right now it's sitting at an 84 on Metacritic for the PlayStation version, 83 for the PC version. So by and large, pretty positive reaction.
Yeah,
we're both.
And the PC version has some issues, which I'll talk about because I'm playing on Steam Deck, and I know you're playing on PS5 because we spoke about it on One More Thing this week. But yeah, there is some issues on PC, and I don't think it's just Steam Deck related. I've seen a bunch of people and a bunch of reviews complaining about the same issues.
Yeah, I have heard some chatter about that, as it were. So, your mileage may vary on quality over on PC, but, on PlayStation, it runs beautifully. I would say, so I guess before we get into like our thoughts and everything, how far into the game are you? Because we're going to try to be really spoiler light.
Yeah, I'm just past the slums. I'm in an area called the rooftops.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm about 2 chapters past where you are, maybe 3, and I think I only have 2 chapters to go. So I'm pretty much at the end of the game, or I'm getting there. I'm at the last big chunk of the game, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I think it's certainly not a perfect game. I think that Metacritic of like mid to low 8s. I think that sounds about right to me for where I'm at with it right now. I'm interested to see how I feel as I get a little further into it. But I think, the story so far, I'm actually surprised how engaged I am with it. I've heard...
Yeah, it's really great, like finding all the memories and stuff and learning more tidbits that way has been really cool, I think.
Yeah, and so just to like, if you haven't played it yet, to give you an idea of like what the gameplay is like, right? Like the general kind of like elevator pitch is that, and I wouldn't say this is a spoiler, this is like, something that we've seen in the marketing material and everything. The beginning of the game is like you're this little cat and you live with your little cat like litter mates and you get separated from them, and that's how you end up in this robot city, and it's like this city where like they think the outside world is gone and like is still there seems to have been like a cataclysmic event of some kind, and life on Earth became untenable, so they sealed up the cities. All the humans are dead, but there's all these robots that still exist, and you kind of find out and again, this is like very early days. They were like assistants. They were like helper robots. And when humans died, they evolved into, kind of a sentient race of their own. And they imitate human society in all these cute little ways and whatever. And the cat is the first outside creature they've seen in hundreds of years. So the whole thing from there, kind of spins out of you trying to get back out to the surface and reunite with your little cat family and all that stuff. And I've seen some conversation about like how the cat itself is like an interesting character, because like they made the whole point of like, well, we don't want to let you customize the cat or anything because you're playing a specific cat and this is that cat's story and everything. And they really, really represent the cat in a super realistic way. I think that's the thing that is like the biggest, standout, right? Is like the way the cat moves, like the way that their little feet, like they have the little bounce
the motion
in their
capture
gait.
that they went through on this is insane. And like all the different meows, like there's a meow button, just like there's a honk button in Goose Game, and you can slam that meow button as much as you want. But it actually has purpose as well. Like it kind of guides you in certain places. It lights up lights to show you which direction to go, which is quite cool. It's like a little help.
It's kind of a bummer. That's really only in the beginning. Like that as a mechanic doesn't really stick through.
Well, no, because you have a different mechanic later in the game where you press down on the D-pad, right?
Yeah.
Which gives you a little bit more information than pressing.
I like the meow though. Like
meow.
it reminded me of like the wind in like Ghost of Tsushima, where it's like, oh, like I like how this is like very like light and contextual, and it's like it doesn't it's not beating you over the head of like go this way, and it's like, oh, okay, like I liked that a little bit. But yeah, I'm with you in that, where it's like, I think in general, just like the way that they've realized the cat and the way that cats move, the way they interact with each other, the way they interact with people.
Or interacting with objects in the world as well, like hitting off the paint cans.
And it's like the little,
like, smash
he does the little just like...
Yeah, and when he first meets the the robot and he like pulls it like that because he like jumps back because he's not quite sure about what it is and whether it's a threat or not. And there's like tons of these little interactions you can do throughout the game. Like you can stop and you can scratch at carpets and sofas and
walls.
Doors. You can sleep and he'll curl up in like the little croissant that cats do. And you can drink water and things. There's all sorts of things you can do like with these little interactions throughout the world. And it's that level of detail, I think, along with the setting, which I think is absolutely stunning, that really seal the deal on the game for me. We're both massive cat lovers, as anyone that listens to the show will know.
Which I think does help. I think if you're not a cat person, I could see you not being as into it. But we are.
Yeah, so. I think it's absolutely adorable, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it's so sweet. And obviously in some of the footage that we've been showing at the beginning, there's like a section where he gets injured as he falls down into.
That's literally happening right now. You timed this comment perfectly. He's
like as he falls down into the underworld where most of the game is set, and I was like so sad. I was like, oh no. Like, is he hurt? Like, what's gonna happen? I was like devastated. Like, as he's limping along, as you like walk, it's just like, oh, it's so sad.
It definitely helps me too that he looks like one of my cats. Like, I think that's helping me connect with him as a character, right? Where it's like, oh, he needs to get back to his family, like.
Yeah, it's really cute, and I'm kind of in love with it. As much as you said, it's not a perfect game. There are, it could do with some more guidance in places. I think it's quite easy to get lost. I think some kind
of like map
gameplay
would be nice. Like it would be nice to like have a thing where I could look at landmarks and stuff. But I also feel like that's kind of part of the gameplay loop. Is like getting lost.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of Elden Ring, where it's like you get lost and there's like all of these little side things you can do. Like all the robots in the slums, they want something. So like someone wants like sheet music, and you can like find all this sheet music that you can collect. And then there's like the market stores where you can buy things, but in order to buy things from them, you need to be able to find something else in the world. Yeah. And and like carry it over to them,
My
which is
one
really
gripe.
cool. I think it's
Sorry. Go ahead.
I think it's really cool, but the issue I have with it is they're quite difficult to keep track of, and they don't really add a lot to the game. Like
That's what I
they're
was gonna
nice,
say. There's
they're
not that
nice
many
little
of them
bits, but
either. Like you brought up the sheet
yeah,
music thing. That's the only thing like that in this whole game, and I almost feel like the thing that I think is keeping me from liking the game more than I do, and again, I do like it a lot. I think it has a good chance of being on my top 10 list this year. Because like again, like the work done in the animation, the mocap, the creation of the world, like it's beautiful and it's really really well realized. But I feel like similar to like the thing where like, oh, like the meowing gives you like little contextual clues, and it's like, oh, I wish that stuck out throughout the whole game. I feel the same way about the collectibles, where it's like, oh, I wish I had more of an incentive to explore, or I wish that I had a bigger area to explore, or I wish that I think the game either should probably be like 2 hours shorter or like a few hours longer. And either be like, you can main path this and just get through the story, and like that is what it is, but there would be like more little side things for you to do. I would like that because like
there are. I just don't think we found them because,
I
it's
mean
around about 7.5 hours to be completionist on it
yeah,
apparently,
yeah. I mean that's
and
what I've
and I
heard.
don't think it's, I don't think I'm probably going to be anywhere near that because I'm already about halfway through the game by the sounds of it,
I
and
think you're
and I'm just can't. I didn't bother finding all the sheet music. I think
yeah.
I was one short, and I think that's the one on the market that I didn't buy. But there's no way for me to go back and do that. So I guess I'm gonna have to go through and replay the game, and I'm fine to do that because this is a world I want to explore more and have a look around, and being able to like jump around it as a cat and explore it. Such a unique perspective that I don't think we've ever really explored in a video game
At least
before.
not like this.
Or,
That's the thing is, it's so realistic the way that cats traverse landscapes and stuff, and I think that's really where it shines. Is like the way that it'll be like you mentioned the thing about the notebooks, and it'll be like you're like looking around the town, and you're like up on a rooftop, and you're like, okay, that's the symbol I need to be looking for. How do I get there now? Like how do I traverse platform around this area to actually get where I need to go and find what I'm going to do. And there's a lot of good little like environmental puzzles. They're very easy for the most part, but there'll be a lot of them where it'll be like, okay, I'm down here.
some of
How
them
do
are
I get up
too easy.
there?
I do wish that they had a little bit more complexity, like some of the puzzles inside. Like some of those are quite in depth in order to progress to the next section in the game. You really have to think and you have to like look at the environment you're in, look at the objects. Like there's some where it's just like, okay, this fan's spinning and I need to be able to get through, so how do I turn the thing off or like block it or break it or whatever? And you kind of have that same puzzle again and again throughout the game. I've done it at least twice at this point, being able to turn ventilation fans off in order to be able to go through. And it would be nice to just have a little bit of a level of difference around it and some more variety in the puzzles that they have. It's
Yeah.
usually just like find an object, that object will help you complete this puzzle.
Yeah, and like there are some that you'll get to a little bit later where like there's like a little bit more like variance, but like even so it'll be like, okay, this is the second kind of puzzle, and it's just like it feels like I could use a little bit of fleshing out in some of those ways where it's like it would be great if there were more puzzles. It would be great if there was more variety. It would be great if there were more side quests. It would be great if there was, more optional stuff for you to explore, and I think if the worst thing you can say about a game is like, oh, I wish that there was like more of it because it has good ideas. It's like that's certainly not the worst thing in the world, but like I think this is a game that is super novel and unique, and it's really a game you can only make once. And I'm bummed that some of the ideas that I really like don't go further,
Mhm.
And I think there are missed opportunities for it where like I think there are things that the game, and I don't want to get into specifics on some of it because it is like spoilery, and we can talk about it next week when we've both finished it. But I think there are things that the game introduces where you're like, oh, like, is this going to be part of the game? right? Part of the loop. And it's like, oh, it's not really. Like, they kind of like solve it for you very easily. And then it's like, all right, cool, we're moving on, you know? And like, it's not, I don't think it's majorly to the detriment of the experience, but I do think that like, there are a few things they could have done, and I think I would be arguing that this is like a 9 instead of like an 8, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, I have done a quick Google to see how much side stuff is in the game. And it does look like there's a fair amount, like there's 6 badges to find that you have to find. There's like the trading quest seems to be a fairly big puzzle that you have to do. Like it's get this item, trade it with this person, then they'll give you something else, and you trade it with them, and
Yeah.
you know. So I'm probably going to go through and do that.
It
If not
almost
on this playthrough, I'll go back to the game probably when I'm on holiday, and try and find everything in the game.
it almost reminds me of like Majora's Mask, weirdly enough. Like, you know how like in Zelda games, well, you've only played Breath of the Wild, but they have these too. You'll have those quests where it's like, oh, I'm like a person and I need help with a thing, and it's like they want you to like bring them something, or it's like run this errand for me, basically. Like I feel like a lot
It's
of
it's an errand quest. There's a lot of those in a lot of
yeah,
games. Like Horizon Forbidden West had them, right? It was a whole
sure.
separate section that was called errands.
But I feel like that, yes, but I feel like that's a little different where like that feels like open world, like checkboxy of like, this is a fetch quest. Whereas like, I don't feel like these feel like fetch quests as much as, you know what, you've played Link's Awakening. This is a better example. You know how in Link's Awakening, there's the whole like trade quest thing where it's like, you get a chicken feather and you trade it for a drop of water and whatever. I forget what the items are, but you know what I mean. It's like you give the gator the boot or whatever and he gives you another thing. And like, it reminds me of that, where it'll be like, oh, like so-and-so, you know, like wants the sheet music. And it's like, oh, I got to go collect cans to trade with this other guy and he'll give me the sheet music and then I can give it to him. And, you know, or it'll be like, oh, I found this item that's like a story-centric item in this character's house, but it's broken and they don't know how to fix it. So I have to go find a character who can fix it. And it's like, have I met a character who already knows how to do it? Have I met a character that's given me useful information in the past? And it's like a lot of like, it's almost like a point and click, because a lot of it is like finding items and then going to people and be like, does this do anything? Can you do anything with this item? And they'll be like, no, but so-and-so might be able to help you. Or, oh no, I don't know about that. Okay. And you know, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And again, right, like I like a lot of those things and I think they're good. I just wish there was more of it. Or I wish that some of it went even deeper, because like I really like the characters. Like I think the writing is surprisingly like deep in certain places. You know, like it's pretty emotional at times, and you know there's like a surprising amount of like lore and like. And I say surprising, maybe that is derisive, and I don't mean it that way. Like I just mean like
no, because I thought this game was gonna be like Inside, where there was almost no dialogue,
and there's a lot,
and there is a lot in this game. Like there's a lot of interaction with NPCs. There's like there's kind of like a companion, which we've seen in some of the marketing stuff, that you can talk to, and that helps you. It's the little backpack that he carries around with him, and it's nice. I do like it, but I do agree with you that I wish the game went a little bit further. Um, Aside from gameplay, I'm curious how this runs on PS5. As I mentioned,
exceptionally, really well. I
yeah.
haven't had a frame drop. It looks beautiful. It runs like butter.
So I'm playing this on Steam Deck. I did a few tweaks in order to maximize its potential. So I'm running it with Proton GE. I've got Vulkan shaders compiling asynchronously, which has caused some visual glitches, but stopped a lot of the stutter. The main issue is that this is an Unreal Engine 4 game, and on PC, Unreal Engine 4 is notorious for causing stutter in a lot of games because most games do not have any level of shader pre-caching. So some games like Horizon Forbidden West and God of War, they'll boot the game up and they'll and Forza Horizon 5 is a good example because I think that is an Unreal Engine game, and it will take a long time to boot up because it's compiling all the shaders that you need at launch. But games like Stray are trying to compile them on the fly. So the first time you see an object, and this was an issue in Elden Ring, it's trying to compile the shaders for that object. So you get like a brief like glitch, and you'll like see it stuttering, and it's horrible, especially when you're traversing the world, and it really ruins the experience. There have been a couple of hot fixes on PC, and on Steam Deck it's got a lot better because there's now a shader pre-cache update that's come out.
Oh, cool.
So a lot of the shaders, if you're running on a Steam Deck, are now pre-cached, and that's something that Valve do on their server side. They monitor what people are playing, and every single time a Steam Deck compiles shaders, it uploads those shaders to Valve servers, and they download them on other Steam Decks. So
I love
someone's done that work for you.
I love the way that the Steam Deck like just like keeps learning from itself. Like, it's very interesting the way they've built it that way, where it's like, hey, like, yeah, you're going to be one of the first people to get it and beta test it for us, and like a lot of shit on it doesn't work or whatever, but then it's like 2 weeks later they're like, well, you all did this thing and figured this thing out, so now here we go, we pushed it live. It's like, what the fuck? That's awesome. Like, it's so cool, especially because it's like you're so used to like the walled garden of like Nintendo or even like the other platform holders, where it's like, this is the experience, and this is, whereas like Valve's like fucking sending me messages on my Steam Deck like, oh, okay, like turn it sideways, this weird screen's gonna come up and we're gonna load this fucking thing in for you, and then it's totally gonna work. I'm like, okay, sure, like, yeah, all right, whatever.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so since those updates have come out, it's a lot more solid. I'm getting pretty solid 40 frames per second, which is where I've set the frame rate limiter on my Steam Deck to be. So I've been happy with it. But having seen some of the footage of this running at 4K 60 frames per second on the PS5, I do feel like I'm missing out a little bit, but I really wanted to play it handheld. It's been a nice handheld experience. It's been great to,
we agreed,
traverse the world.
We agreed we were going to try out the new PlayStation thing for the audience. You should just try it on, because you were talking about replaying it anyway. Maybe you just boot it up on PlayStation and just give it a go so you can like see it.
Yeah, I might give it a go. It probably won't be this week, but I might check it out when I get back from holiday, because I do want to see what offerings they've got on PS Plus as well at some point.
Some good stuff.
Have you played anything else on PS Plus since you got it?
No, I ended up getting it later than we planned. I only got it like when Stray came out, so this is kind of my first brush with it. I'm planning on spending some more time with it like next week after I finish up Stray, because I think I only have probably like one or maybe two more sittings and I'll be done with Stray. But that's like where my attention's been right now. But I've looked at the library and everything and checked it out. There's some good stuff on there, and there's a couple games that I'm interested in. Like Returnal is one that like I wanted to try, but I didn't really feel like plunking down $70 for a game I wasn't sure I was gonna like, and I'm still sure I'm not gonna love. I'm pretty sure. So I'm excited to try that and be like, hey, like, does this strike a chord with me? Yes or no? If it does, great. Then I would have never played it otherwise, and that's the reason services like this are great. And if it's not my thing, hey, at least I tried it, and guess what? Same reason services like this are great. I saved my money, right? Like, okay. And it'll have paid for itself, because I would have pissed away $50+ more than I spent for the upgrade just to try it. So,
well, Stray itself is a $25 game. And,
right. And the upgrade was only like $30 or something like that.
Yeah.
Because I already had a subscription. So it's like, okay, yeah, it's already paid for itself for the year. I might honestly do the upgrade to the highest tier, because it's only like another $16, just so I can like try it and like see what the streaming is like and just give people an opinion, because I am interested in trying.
I tried PS Now a couple of years back, and it was not great, and I don't think it will have improved all that much
when I
tried it, but I'd be interested to know.
When I did try it, it was a long time ago though. Like, it was like early PS4 days, and I imagine it's better now than it was then, but like, is it good enough for you to like play one of these PS3 games all the way through on the cloud? I don't know, probably not, but
yeah, especially something like an FPS like Resistance or Killzone or something like that. Yeah, you want to be like twitchy on the sticks, and I'm not sure that it's there yet, but I feel like that's the same for all streaming services.
The one thing I think is interesting about that I am interested to kind of like try out and see how it works is like for like the PS, like you brought up the FPS, right? Like something where like you really don't want latency. You know, we're used to those games being 30 FPS because they were on PS3. I'm wondering if
They're still going to be 30 FPS.
No, I
because they're
know.
locked to 30 FPS.
My point is, I wonder if that makes it easier in terms
I
of
feel like if it was a 120 FPS game that they were streaming you, and you had some dropped frames down to like 60 FPS, the fact that the latency would be so low between the controller and it interacting on screen at 120 FPS, the extra few milliseconds that it takes to transmit then come back would be less apparent than on a 30 FPS, where it's
That's a good
already
point, yeah.
33.3 milliseconds between every single frame. That's a long time that it's drawing every single frame, and you're adding to that with additional latency from controller input and then additional latency from streaming back and forth.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it operates. But we'll see if I get around to it. But anyway, overall, I'm really, really enjoying Stray. I think like if you've seen it and the conceit of it at all interests you, I think it's worth checking out, especially if you've got a PlayStation and you can, do the upgrade and try it out, as part of PlayStation Now. Or not too many fucking names. PlayStation Plus.
Plus Deluxe.
Whatever. Yeah, Deluxe, I think, is the second
Deluxe.
tier.
Yeah, it's Deluxe. It's the middle tier, not the essential. The
Right.
one that has some streaming. You don't need the top end tier, because I know there was some confusion as to what you can play Stray on, and it's the middle tier.
It's the regular middle tier that just has not the full library, the library without the retro stuff. But
Yeah, it's anything PS4 and PS5 that you can play.
I'll tell you what, though, I was looking at that. Last note on this. It's some bullshit on some of that retro tier because they have a bunch of like remasters of old games, and I'm like, this is not retro tier. This is a fucking PlayStation. Like this should be on the regular tier, motherfuckers.
I know.
Don't fuck with me, PlayStation. But anyway, I really like Stray. I think, especially if you're a cat person, you should definitely try it, and I think you will find it charming. You will like it for the same reasons that Steve and I do. And I think for me, like, my criticism of it, I think, comes from the fact that I do really like it, and I think it's like a little bit away from being like a perfect execution of what it's trying to achieve, and it falls just a little short of that, and that's not a problem, right? Like, that's still makes for a very enjoyable, charming game that I think will be memorable, and that will probably be on my short list near the end of the year. But I think that's always the most frustrating thing about a piece of art, where you're like, oh man, this is really good, but it's like, it's this close to like great, and
Yeah.
greatness is a tough thing to achieve, so when you flirt with it and you're just not quite there, it's like that can sometimes really, I think, leave a bad taste, but I like it.
I would say this game is great so far from what I've played. I put it in the same realms as an Inside or a Limbo, and I think those games are great.
I don't think it quite gets there. I don't. And I don't know. Maybe you'll feel differently as you get further into it. Maybe I'll feel differently when it resolves.
Yeah, I might feel like it's repeating too much and there isn't that stuff. But at the moment, I've enjoyed doing the book quest, the notebook quest. I've enjoyed the fact that there is that trading quest I could look at. And I'm having a good time with it so far, the level of interaction in the world. But I could see that, I've got another half of the game, maybe a little bit more to go. And if it's the same puzzles repeated, and if it's the same kind of quest repeated, then I probably will feel the same way as you.
I'm interested to see where we both land on it by next week, but we'll both be done.
Imagine if the ending's like atrocious, like 12 minutes. Like, we were both hot on that game throughout it. Then we get to the end of it, and it's just like, what the hell were you doing?
Spoilers for 12 minutes, because you should not play that game. If we find out that the cat has like a mental block and is like secretly banging his sister or whatever, then yeah, I don't know. That's that sounds pretty bad. I hope that's not what happens in Stray. God, 12 minutes. 12 minutes. What a game. What a video game. That was sure a game that I played, and
I loved it at the beginning. Like, you
Yeah,
hiding in the closet,
when we
in comes Willem Dafoe.
when we gave our first impressions, I was like, I don't understand why people don't like this. This is a really cool game. And then I played it again for like 30 more minutes, and I was like, oh, this fucking sucks. And like, fuck
Yeah,
this.
it was such a bad resolution to what could have been a cool story.
It's one of those things too, where it's like it's not just a bad resolution. It was also didn't really make sense. Like it was
Oh,
like
it made no sense.
it was
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where you're like, oh, that's a dumb twist, but then you're like, also you didn't even like you get to the part where it's like, okay, you know, and this is like always like the way I like fucking am most likely to get out of like a horror movie, like or like a thriller is like I hate this moment in art where it's like there's a mystery, something's happening, you're trying to figure this out, tension's building, tension's building, tension's building, and now the moment where we explain what's happening and then it doesn't make any fucking sense and it's just like
that happens a lot more in like a murder mystery.
yeah,
And it's just like there's no way we would have been able to solve this. This is like a terrible episode of Scooby-Doo where you've introduced a character last minute and you're pinning the blame on them. It's
but
like what the hell?
I remember feeling this way about what is it's Us, I think, is Jordan Peele's second horror movie, right? Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I love Jordan Peele, and even Us I thought was pretty good. But Us, there's like a moment where you get to the part where it's like the main character is face to face with the antagonist. The antagonist is like, "Let me explain the lore to you," and I'm like, I don't want to know. Like, don't fucking tell me. And like that was like. 12 minutes lead into like, and it was like, okay, here's what's happening. And you're like, oh, really? That's what's happening? And then they're like, let's explain it for 10 minutes to the point where you're like, okay, literally none of these dots connect. Like, what the fuck? Okay, so I don't think Stray's going there. I think it's got a pretty straightforward narrative. I think I think I know exactly what's going to happen. And if it does, fine, great, that's good. Like, it's very like, they've been telling.
As long as my boy is okay and he doesn't die at the end, I'll be happy with how this
if they
ends.
kill this cat, 0 out of 10.
Yeah.
Okay?
This cat cannot die.
Can't die. All right, let's jump into the question block. We'll talk more about Stray next week when we finish it up. We'll probably do like a spoilery, maybe main topic at the end or something, because I'd like to talk about it more. But let's jump into the question block. This one comes from one of our Patreon supporters, Trendy Brendy, who wrote in and said, what is the ideal length of time for a JRPG that you're only kind of into? I really like the 20-hour experiences offered by Earthbound and Mother 3, and I hear Live Alive and Chrono Trigger, the next game on my list, hit that mark as well. When does a game start to overstay its welcome, and when do you decide you've spent too much time in a game to abandon ship? This is a great question. I love this question.
I'll tell you what, anything over 20 hours is too long, and I will be very unlikely to play it unless I am 100% convinced before I go in.
Do you feel that way about any game or RPGs specifically? Brendy said JRPGs, but I'm just going to say game. RPGs.
Yeah, literally any
You don't
game.
like long games.
RPGs? No, I don't like long games. They 100% overstay their welcome. And to answer the second half of the question, as soon as I feel like I'm not getting enjoyment out of the game anymore, I stop playing it. And I know that I am infamous for not finishing games, but that's the reason. If I'm not enjoying something, why persist and why push myself? I'm just crunching in a game that I'm not having a good time with, and I mean, the whole point of entertainment is to be entertained.
You maybe do it for your podcast, you do it for your friend, you do it because you lost a bet, you know. But no, you are a man with no honor, is what I know.
I have honor, but if it's a truly terrible experience, I'm just not going to finish it.
Terrible experience, he says now. So is Elden Ring a terrible experience? Your favorite game of all time that you didn't finish?
Elden Ring is great, and I really tried to get back into it. So I did that stream, and Tamberwolf joined me, and I just realized that you cannot go to that game.
You lost the chops.
And be in the high difficulty zone that you were good at when you finished playing, and you were like, on the path to defeat the fire giant, because you would just get absolutely fucking
Steve
destroyed.
Never kills God. He never gets that far.
No, I don't need to do that. I never got that far in Pokemon either, where I managed to take God down.
You got to do it. The perfect plot of every JRPG is you make friends and then you kill God. That's how it goes.
Yeah, I also really struggle with JRPGs in general because I find most of the stories nonsense. And
You
so
don't
if
play
the
them long enough to
stories,
know what's happening.
yeah, I don't, but I feel like it's always like melodramatic acting and characters I care very little about and stories that are just hot nonsense. The only reason I can play Elden Ring is because I ignore the stupid story about fucking fingers because it's just hot nonsense. But the gameplay's fun and I have a good time with it.
You better watch your mouth, all right? Because Persona has a great story and
Persona
a
has a
great
good
cast,
story, and
and you
that's
didn't
like
finish it
one of
either.
the
And
exceptions.
you didn't finish it
There's
either.
one, but we're doing a game club on it, so I will be finishing it.
Yeah, I know.
But it's one of the exceptions on to the rule. A lot of games, like, and I think my main issue is like with like high fantasy and stuff. Where I'm just like, no, I'm not into this. Sorry.
You don't like anything.
There's a lot of things I like,
I
and
don't like
like
high fantasy. You just said Elden Ring is your favorite game.
yeah, it is, but not because of the story. The story's stupid. I think it's honestly ridiculous. And like, yeah, what is with all these like fingers and like maidens and like all of this like ridiculous
George Railroads
lore
Martin
and
really likes fingers.
yeah,
You
very
know, he's a
weird
finger guy. You
finger
know, I don't.
fetish.
He
Yeah.
loves fingers, man. Wiki fingers.
Do you think his favorite biscuit is the chocolate finger?
I think it has to be.
He
Lady
likes fish
fingers.
fingers
He
and
loves
chicken
lady
fingers.
fingers. He
Yeah.
loves maidens and fingers. Lady fingers have to be his favorite food. So what I think is interesting about this is this has like three different questions. So I'm gonna answer each one. Uh, what is the ideal length of time for a JRPG that you're only kind of into? I think it's got to be shorter. But also I don't finish games that I'm only kind of into.
Same.
I finish a lot of games. Um, but if a game, especially if it's like a long game, right? Like if I'm 20 hours into a game and you hit that feeling, even if you're like having enough fun, um, where you hit that point where you're just kind of like, I get it. You know, like I get what this game
At
is.
that exact point with Days Gone, I'm just like, yeah, cool, I get it. The story's not compelling enough for me to continue. The gameplay's open world repetition. I'm done. And
You've
I had that
seen what it
exact
has to
same
show
thing
you,
with
right?
yeah, I had the same thing with Far Cry 6. I was just like, yeah, I get it. It's more Far Cry. I'm kind of done with taking dictators down. I need something to freshen up this franchise, and Far Cry 6 didn't do it for me, and so I fell off it. I were probably around about the 15-20 hour mark.
So, like, to me, with the when does a game start to overstay its welcome? I don't think that it's a number. Like, I don't think that there's like a line where a game overstays its welcome. I think my thing with long games is I've played lots of long games and I've talked about lots of long games on these podcasts, right? For me, if a game is going to be long, it needs to justify its length, right? And I think there's a lot of ways you can do that. It either needs to have, and we all know what I'm about to say, right? A good loop is huge. If you have gameplay that is so fun that I don't care that I'm doing the same thing over and over again, like Ghost of Tsushima, for example, right? Was a really
Hades for me was a
Sure.
phenomenal example on that.
And like I burnt out on Hades, right? Where I liked Hades, but I hit a point where I was like, I get it, right? Like I've done what I've done what this game has to show me, and the end is nowhere near in sight because I have to just keep replaying the entire game every time I want to make a play at end game. And it was just like I hit a point where I was like, yeah, okay, I did it, I get it. I never beat the last boss. Oh well, that's fine.
Yeah, I was
And
the same. I never got out.
But with like Ghost, I rolled credits on it and I was like, I want to keep playing. I'm having fun. I want to keep checking boxes. I want to keep existing in this world. And you know, it also helps that like Ghost had a good story that was brief, you know, and like it had a lot of things going for it outside of having a good gameplay loop. But same with Horizon, right? Like, why did I platinum Horizon? Well, I really like playing Horizon, right? Like, and I like the world a lot, and I want to know every little story tidbit it has to offer. I want to meet every character I can. So, like, same with Persona, right? Like, Persona is an over 100-hour game. I think I spent 130 hours in Royal. And, you know...
Okay, right. When we do the game club, I do not think we can all commit to playing 130 hours of a
You're
game.
already trying to back out. You're already trying to back out, Steve.
That's so long. Like the game club will be like 2 years long at
So
that
what?
point.
What's wrong with that?
Okay, fine.
All you have to do is
2 years,
play the
fine.
fucking game that you said you were gonna play. You agreed. It was your idea. You're like, we'll do a game club and we'll play like a chapter every week, and that's how I'll do it. You kidding me? Now you're already backing out. You're like, oh, it's long.
I didn't realize it was like 130 fucking hours. I thought it was like 50, 60, maybe 70.
Let me see. I think it's 130 hours. No, okay. It's 103 hours for the main story, and it's 125 hours with the extras. 143 to obtain 100% completion. I don't think that's right because I platinumed it, and I don't think I spent that long in it, but maybe I did. But point being, that game, right? Like that game kept me on the hook because for a couple of reasons. Again, it has a good loop, it has a good story, and the story is very like chapter-y, right? Where it's like each palace feels kind of like a new season of like a television show or like the next installment of a book or something like that. So it was really easy to digest it because when I hit a point where I was like, hey, I'm halfway into this game and there's other games that are out that I want to play right now, it was super easy to take a break and come back to because it's like, well, it's turn-based RPG, so like there was not muscle memory that I was going to lose. I needed to just, okay, this is how the system works. I got it, right? That really helps. And the fact that I was able to be like, I just finished a boss and then the first thing that I did when I picked it back up was, okay, well, here's the next plot starting off, so it feels like a beginning again. Those are all things that I think help make that game not overstay its welcome, right? Where it's like, hey, like, it's easy to jump in, jump out if you need to. It's easy to play in really long chunks if you need to. There's a good loop where, like, I'm doing palaces and all that stuff, but then there's the social stuff that kind of feels like a totally different game, so it's easy to play it for a long time without getting bored.
Yeah, I had issues with the base game, right, Persona 5, the one without the enhancements, because I struggled with it because I was, the way I play is often I'll try and fit games in around my schedule. So I work from home, so I might like play a little bit on my lunch break. I might play some before I cook dinner or before we record. But with Persona 5, in the palaces, you couldn't save at any point you wanted. You had to go to these like specific rooms or you lost all of your progress.
Right.
And to get to those rooms, it was often quite a lengthy period that you had to go throughout the palace. And so I fell off because of that. Like I just finished Futaba's palace, but other than that, like at that point, I was just like, this is taking so long. And I that's why I fell off.
You kill me. You were like so far into the game. That's so late.
I know.
Oh my God. That's what kills me though. Cause like the other question here, and we're spending a while on this cause I really like this question. When do you decide you've spent too much time on a game to abandon ship? Like I don't think Steve has that in him. And No,
because that's the gambler's mentality. And if you go like that, it's really toxic, I think, because you constantly just go, oh, I'll just pay it. I'll just keep spending a little bit more. I'll keep spending a little bit more.
But you already bought the game. It's not the same.
No, but not like that. It's like eventually I'll enjoy this. If I keep going, eventually I'll reach the end and I'll be like, yeah, this was great. But if I'm not having a fun time, why fucking bother? Just like stop and walk away and assess what you're doing, because this is the kind of shit you can get into, especially in like free to play grindy games. Like I had the same issue in Destiny where it's just like I just need to keep going because I need to like get a better power level, a better light level. I need to get that next weapon, and you like step back and you just like assess and you're just like, this isn't fun. I'm just grinding. This is a chore. This is work, and I'm not having a good time anymore. And if I feel like that in a game, and JRPGs I think can be notoriously grindy, if I feel like that, that's when I'm most likely to walk away. And I reached a point like that in Elden Ring where I was at like a block where, in order to really defeat the fire giant, I needed to level up 30 levels. I'd got to that point really very underleveled, and I don't know how I managed to defeat some of the bosses that I did. And I just couldn't get past this fire giant. No, like not even humble brag. Like it's like a miracle. Like I think it was just persistence and just going again and again and again, and having people in the chat on Twitch helping me. but I couldn't get past the fire giant, and so I need to go and find other things to do. But that game has no map. It has no like, well, it has a map, but it doesn't tell you what to do. It doesn't have like a quest log. And because I'm out of the game, I can't remember what I've done, what I haven't done, where I should go, what I should do. I should have played it all in one hit.
Yeah, that's a game that's hard to come back to. But you know, and like I totally get where you're coming from, and like I respect it, right? Like I'm giving you a hard time, but you know, you should only play games that you're having fun with. But the thing about like, when do you decide you spend too much time in a game to abandon ship? I just can't believe how close you get to the end of a game, and you're like, whatever. It's like,
was I really close at Futaba's then?
I mean, pretty far. That's like,
it was like 60 hours.
I think there's only one more palace after that, and then you get to like the end game stuff. And like in Royal, there'd be another 30 hours, so whatever. But like, it's just nuts to me. And it's like, you did the same thing with Horizon, right? You were like, oh, I love Horizon. I love Forbidden West. It's so good. You're at the last level, and you're like, It's like, what? Like, you're right there. Like, just finish. What are you doing?
Well, yeah, I'll go back and finish. I need to finish Elden Ring. There's a lot of things I need to finish, you know? I blame Elden Ring, and then I blame the Steam Deck for that. It distracted me. Took me away from those games.
And I think that's the thing for me is, like, I try to focus on, like, one game at a time, and, like, just finish it. You know, and like,
but I find that tricky because, you know, people, especially the, you know, the format's changed quite a bit in the last few months, and we've tried mixing up and we've removed what we're playing, right? But prior to that, it was such a mainstay segment on the show that I always wanted to have something fresh to bring to the table. I didn't want to just be like, well, I'm still playing Horizon for the 5th or 6th week in a row because the game's a long time.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to go, oh, I'm playing Elden Ring. I've dipped into that. Here's my first impressions. Or my Steam Deck showed up, so we're going to do a few weeks or a month on that because you know, it was a very popular device and people were interested to know about it.
I think for me, and like, it's not that I'm never susceptible to that, but I have tried to kind of separate myself from that because I've been podcasting and talking about games on the internet for a long time. And I think for me, I had to come to a conclusion of like, I can't do content that way. Like I can't have the reason I'm picking up games be specifically to talk about them, because if that's the only reason I'm picking up a game is so that I've played the new game so I can have a hot take on it and then never talk about it again and move on to that. That's not how I want to engage with art. I don't want to. My cat just knocked that is a tool to use to take light bulbs out of the ceiling on very, very high ceilings. I don't know what the fuck he's doing up there. Whatever. That's fine. That's a problem for future Pete. I don't want to treat art that way and video games that way, of being like something that's like exists for me to pass judgment on it and move on, right? Like that's just like I know that.
No, I understand that, but that's like the only reason both of us picked Elden Ring up and Metroid Dread up, and they turned out to be two of my favorite games of the last.
Well,
2
and
years.
I finished Metroid Dread because I really liked it, and I stopped playing Elden Ring because I hit the point where I was like, I get what this game is, and it's really not for me, you know? And like, I had fun with it, what I was doing, and I plan to get back to it for content to stream. But to me, that's different, right? Like me deciding I'm going to play a game that I'm not really that interested in because the audience wants me to play it on stream is different, right? Because when I'm playing games for other people, I'm making content, and I don't think of that as being the same thing as me playing a video game for pleasure, right? Or just to do it, right? Which is part of the reason I've been having fun going back and playing old games that I already know I like, is like, well, there's no pressure for me to like render a take, right? Like nobody's like, oh, Pete, like you're replaying Dragon Age 2 right now. Like, what do you think about that game from 10 years ago, right? Like, and I have a lot to say about it, but people don't really care. And like, that's fine, right? Because like, I like that I don't have to do that, that I'm not playing the game for the sake of being like, I'm on Twitter and I like or Stray sucks or whatever, right? Like, I don't want to engage in that way where all I'm doing is just like, well, I got to play something new this week. I got to always be playing something new. It's like, I want to play what I'm most excited about. And I think that, we've talked about this a lot, where I think we've cultivated an audience that they just want to hear what we're interested in, right? So like, I should be doing and playing games however I'm getting the most enjoyment out of them, right? And like for you, that's not finishing them, right? And for me, that's a big part of me liking a game is I want to get into it. I want to play it. I want to like it enough that I'm thinking about it when I'm not playing it, and then I'm eager to get to the next part and, whatever, right? And like, there are a lot of games that I love like that I hit a point where I'm like, I'm ready for this to be over. Like, I'm ready to wind this down. And if that happens as I'm getting to the end of the game, that's a good game, right? That's good design. If that happens and I still have a lot of game left, that's where I bounce out.
Yes. Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I don't think I've ever experienced that, just to put a pin in Trendy Brandy's question. I don't think I've ever experienced that on a 20-hour game. 20 hours is kind of a sweet spot for me.
I think that's about the perfect length for a video game.
50. Yeah, 20 hours is a great time.
Like, how long is Spider-Man? Isn't that like 20 hours? I think that's like between 20 and 30
I think
hours.
Miles Morales is 20 hours.
That's like 10 to 15.
Spider-Man's longer, isn't it?
Let's find out. Sorry, make your point.
Yeah, like I like shorter games, and there are some games I like longer games, and I can spend time in games that are infinite in length, like an Animal Crossing or a Stardew Valley. There is no end in sight for that, but they're different, and it's the rare case of a game like a Skyrim or an Elden Ring where I'll spend hundreds of hours because I'm having such a good time with it. But that is a very rare circumstance. Usually I want to wrap it up within 20 to 30 hours at most.
So Marvel's Spider-Man, the main story, 17 hours. With extras, it's 25. Completionist run is 34. That's like including the DLC.
It's a good time.
That's like with 10
really
hours of DLC, no less, too. That's a whole second story. Yeah, like that's... I think that's about the perfect length for a video game in general. And don't get me wrong, right? I love Persona, and that's 5 times as long. That's fine. But, I think it all comes down to, like, the game earning it. Like, if you make me invest and make me care enough to stick through for over 100 hours, then, hey, good for you. You nailed it, right? I don't want every game to be like that, but... for there to be a one that's special enough to nail that every once in a while, like, yeah, that's cool. All right, so let's jump into our talking point for this week. And I want to say this. We have 2 more things in the question block this week from Asobi and from Zaid. The Asobi one's old. I owe it to you, buddy. Sorry about that. We must have missed it somehow. And Zaid, you had one that you wrote in with that we're just not going to get to today. We've got to wrap it up, and I do want to touch on our talking point for this week. So
yes, absolutely.
We'll save those 2 for next week. Thanks for writing in. All right, so let's jump into our talking point, which is Discord coming to Xbox. So this is interesting, right? Xbox announced this just a couple days ago, and I think. Steve, I'll let you introduce the news of it all, but I think the thing that is kind of like that we've talked about that's been like on our minds is like, why did this happen? Why did it come to Xbox before PlayStation after PlayStation just made this big investment in Discord? It seems odd. So go ahead and give the kids the context.
Yeah, so they announced that for Xbox Insiders, which is their beta program that you can sign up to, that they've rolled out Discord support to Xbox. So the way it works is when you're on your console, you can link Discord to Xbox by scanning a QR code on the screen. And once it's linked, when you're in the Discord app, you can transfer it over to Xbox. You need both the Discord app and the Xbox app installed on your phone, and then you can transfer from Discord onto Xbox, and you can be in a party chat, a cross-platform party chat via Discord, which is really cool. It's not one-click seamless support where your Discord friends are on Xbox, which would be really nice, but you can be in any audio channel, whether that's a private call or on a server, and you can transfer that over to Discord, and you can see who's online, who's there, and it's really, really cool. What's strange is that last May, Jim Ryan put a blog post up on the Sony Interactive Entertainment blog, which is their more investor-focused blog rather than the PlayStation blog, talking about their investment into Discord Series H round, which was a $100 million in total round of funding, and I think Sony put in around about 20 million into that. And they said they're going to be partnering up with Discord, the popular communication service that will integrate your social experience on PlayStation beginning early next year. And this was last May. We're now in July 2022, almost 18 months since that announcement, and it's nowhere to be seen. And yet, Microsoft kind of swoops in, like so many months later, and integrates this and pips Sony to the post. And it's a really strange look, especially considering the investment that Sony put into it. And it just leaves everyone wondering, like, why did it happen? Why did it not come to PlayStation first? And like, what does this mean for other platforms, like namely Nintendo Switch? Does it come to that? Do we have Discord become the de facto standard across PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and
I sure
Switch?
hope so. That would be nice. Yeah, it's very interesting because like it makes you think that there must have been a pre-existing deal before Sony's investment, right? That Xbox and Discord had made this plan prior to that they've been working on this technology.
Yeah, I mean, they always had a level of connection between Xbox and Discord.
Right, like you could link your Xbox account and people could see what you were playing.
And it would show what you're playing. But that was the extent of it. Like it would show your gamer tag on Discord so people could add you directly from Discord, and it would show what you're playing, but you wouldn't be able to party chat with them or interact in any real meaningful way like you can with this update this week. Right. But yeah, Wakahula made the point that software development takes time and that he thinks they worked on it before the Sony partnership.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe, but like 18 months to achieve this, I don't think so. Like I kind of feel like, yeah, maybe there was a partnership agreement in place, but I like the level of pace that both Discord and Microsoft put updates out. I think it really shows Microsoft's lineage as a software company, and that's where their focus is, right? They make Windows, they make like Office. That's like what they do. They make software, and Xbox is just like an extension of that. They have an operating system on the Xbox, but the focus really is the software and building a platform. And I think this is just an extension of that. And I don't see that this took 18 months to build. I can't. Maybe deeper integration is what Sony's working on, where you have your Discord friends list on the PlayStation and you can interact and see it, and your PlayStation friend list shows up on Discord. Maybe they're working on something like that will take additional time. But to just hand off a call from Discord onto Xbox, I don't think takes a significant length of time. Not more than 2 years, or I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. You'd know better than I would, right? But I feel like what Wakahula is saying has to be true on some level. I feel like there had to have been a conversation between Xbox and Discord prior to Sony's investment, and for whatever reason, right? Whether it's development time, whether it's Discord having other priorities as they're going through another round of investment and stuff like that, like. Who's to say, right? I'm sure them getting it on Xbox was not their primary focus. And, I guess maybe it's just finally ready to cross the finish line. Because I can't imagine this is a thing they decided to do after Sony's investment and it got done first. That seems weird to me, It could be, I guess.
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean it's a possibility, I think, because it is loose integration, like it's more on the mobile and then the Xbox just picks it up. Right. But I remember around that time of that Sony investment, a few months prior, there was the rumor that Microsoft was sniffing around and offering Discord a multi-billion-dollar deal in order to acquire them. And maybe this is the fruits of that those conversations. Maybe
Yeah.
they were talking about it, and it's like, well, we want Xbox and Discord to integrate, and that's what we would do if we bought you. And maybe they just came to an agreement that let's just do this. We're gonna go with a Series H round instead, and we want to remain independent. Or maybe they're sniffing around, and maybe they're like partnering up and getting cozy with Microsoft again to for an impending acquisition. I could see that happening too. There's the rumors that we spoke about on One More Thing that the same thing's happening with Netflix and Netflix's advertising deal with Microsoft. People think that some industry analysts think that Netflix is eyeing up Microsoft for an acquisition because they have very deep pockets and they're really one of the only companies that could afford to buy them.
Yeah, and Microsoft loves to buy things for the name. They've
Well, you buy
certainly.
things for the name, and like they bought Skype, for example, and let it die, and it's obviously they've changed as a company since then. They're one of the companies I trust with their acquisitions. They've shown me with their acquisition of GitHub, with their acquisition of even something like LinkedIn. They are really hands off in their approach. They hire the right people. They acquire them because they trust the leadership. Bethesda they've been hands off with. They're kind of just letting them get on with things. And I think Discord would be a really great fit for Microsoft because they've got Teams, which is a very like business focused product, but to be able to have something that's consumer focused again, like Skype was, and have these like basically acquire all of these communities and this massive user base would be huge for them.
Yeah, I do hope Discord stays independent. I don't want to
Me too.
see. I don't want to see more consolidation. Microsoft doesn't need to own more. I think Discord becoming de facto and then leveraging that to make everybody play nice that's the ideal outcome, I think. And you asked the Nintendo Switch question. I hope so. I have a hard time seeing it. I have a hard time seeing Nintendo agreeing to allow another company to dictate something as meaningful as like how people talk on their platform. Um,
Yeah, I
they've
mean,
been
I could see it
so
happening
so
in
strict about
specific
it.
games. Like, can you imagine rather than it being like in-game chat with Fortnite or something, it's you connect your Discord account and your
Yeah,
Discord call is within
maybe,
Fortnite.
maybe I don't know. I don't know. I really do have a hard time seeing it. They feel like if anyone would be the holdout, it would be them.
Yeah, I could absolutely see Nintendo being the holdout, and I wonder if they really understand how people interact now. Like it very much is. We're all talking on Discord. We want to go play a game of Halo. Okay, let's jump on a call and let's do it. And I can imagine, that's one of the examples Microsoft outlines in their blog post that, you can see people playing Halo Infinite. Some of them are playing on console, some of them are playing on PC. Well, what's the best solution to talk to people on multiple platforms? It's Discord currently, and to integrate that into your system. So if people are wearing their headset and they want to talk with people both in game and in their party, they can do that. And they can have a single pair of headphones on. They're in the game. They're concentrating because playing games with headphones is a much more immersive experience, and I know a lot of people like doing it. And when you're playing with Discord, and you've got to have like one headphone in to like chat with your buddies, and like then you've got to have the TV turned down so you can't really hear what's going on in the game. Being able to have it integrated into the platform is really cool. I'm looking forward to trying this out. We should probably try it out on like a stream or whatever, so we can like see what it's like and experience it. Because I think it could be quite cool to give some feedback on it. I'm in the
Agreed.
Xbox Insider program, so I have
So am I.
access to this. So I think we should probably check it out and give
Yeah.
some thoughts on it next week.
Yeah, let's try and get that done this week sometime, and we'll see if we can chat about it for next week. And if not, we'll do it in the next 2 weeks or whatever. But, yeah. For what it's worth, if you're not in the Xbox Insiders program, you should be. It's really easy to opt in, and that was like how I was able to do like the Halo beta and everything like that. And they offer a lot of cool stuff. So, PSA on that one. It's gonna be interesting to see how it works. I'm interested to give it a shot and see, if it feels like something that is half baked that could grow into something meaningful, or if are they going to come out the gate with something that really changes the game in a meaningful way. Um, It's
Yeah, I
exciting
would
though. We've
definitely
talked
like to
about
see.
Discord integration on consoles for a long time, so to actually see some
Yeah,
movement there
and it
is
was
cool.
always in the like discussion on Nintendo Noise about the Switch. That's like, come on, if you're not going to do party chat, just partner with someone who will do it, and like partner up with Discord and have the friends list integrate in that way, and just like get them to offer their services to you. Like we said, I would really like to see a deeper integration where I can see my Discord friends lists on Xbox, and I can see my Xbox friends list on Discord, and I can just have them interchange into a conversation, invite people to a party chat without having to have the conversation already happening in Discord and then have this handoff to the Xbox app, which means it then shows up on my console. There are a few loops you need to jump through in order to get it, but this is stage one, right? It's still in the insider program, it's still in beta, it's not rolled out to everyone yet. And I would imagine they'll work on improving the experience if it proves to be popular, which I think it will be. People love Discord. Everyone's a member of at least one server. I think I'm in like 6 or 7, and it's really cool. And I do think PlayStation's integration will go deeper. They're talking about having like a social experience and stuff. So whatever that means, I wonder when it will happen. It's just so strange to me how slow Sony seemed to be with pushing updates out to their console. Like we only got VRR support, which was in the Xbox One. It was in the Xbox One S at launch. We only got variable refresh rate support like 2 months ago. Like, why did that take so long? And why is Discord integration taking so long when you invested in them? Like it shouldn't take this long to achieve what you want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting, like the why of it, because there is a reason, right? And it's either timeline or wanting that deeper integration. Like there has to be a reason. I don't know that we'll ever find out what that reason is, but when PlayStation's version of this comes out, if it does have a deeper level of integration, I think we'll have our answer.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is an interesting one. We'll see where it goes, and we'll try to get our thoughts on it for you guys sooner than later, so we can let you know if it's something to look forward to or not. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. This has been a real one. If you want to write in with your thoughts about Stray for next week when we do part 2 of our impressions / spoiler cast, I don't know, whatever we're going to call it. But please write in with your thoughts on the game if you're playing it. If you want to hit us up with a question, just like Trendy Brendy did for the question block, please write in questions at flipscreen.games. Come hit us up on the Discord. However you choose to write in, we greatly appreciate it. And we love answering your questions. They're a good time. And for those of you that wrote in and we didn't get to your questions, don't worry about it. We'll do it next week. I got you. Okay.
Yeah. Like we have two segments now, right? We've got the start screen where you can have like a question at the beginning with the question block. So
or it could be a main topic. Every section of the show now can be reader mail. We might get to the point where the entire format of the show is you just write questions in and we just say like what we think. And you know what? I wouldn't say be opposed. I like answering questions. Oh, yeah. You know? Okay, good. I'm glad we're in agreement, Steve. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us here. Remember, flipscreen.games for all the links to the Patreon, to the Discord, to write in, all that good stuff. However you choose to get involved, however you choose to show your support, we appreciate you. And we thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the FlipScreen Games podcast. I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week, baby. I still didn't add the music, but it's gonna mean that this show gets out earlier, so it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Has it been 20 seconds yet? I don't know, but I'm gonna keep going. And now Steve says something.
Oh, I don't know what to say. You caught me off guard. I've already ended my recording. I just had no idea that we were doing this.